A few months ago, I decided it was time to redo my office. This office works great, but with the walls being clad in tin as well as the ceiling, it had just a very utilitarian feel. So in the first video on this office renovation, I went ahead, took everything out of here, I stripped the tin off the walls and the ceiling, and I found that the drywall on the ceiling was actually in pretty poor shape. So I thought, you know what, let's just rip that off. Now pay attention here. This is disturbing. What you see falling from the ceiling is a disgusting amount of mouse poop. Oh, so gross. I also found some very questionable wiring hidden up in the ceiling, so it was a good thing that we'd ripped this drywall off. But the next phase of the project was to put a new ceiling on, and how on earth was I going to hold pieces of MDF up to the ceiling by myself? Aha. Thank you to Princess Auto for sponsoring this video and selling this product. This is a 11-foot drywall lift. I never thought I would ever buy a drywall lift, but sometimes there's tools that you don't buy because you want to. Most tools I buy because I want to, but this was one that I bought because I needed it. Well, I guess that kind of came out wrong. I mean, I like all the tools I have, but some of them I'm more thrilled to purchase than others, and some, if I never ever needed the tool, I would never purchase it. This lift is one that I probably would never buy unless I had to do this job. But having used it for this job, I am so thrilled that I have it. Now this is 1/2-inch MDF that I'll be putting on the ceiling, and I'm ripping it to 48 inches wide so it'll match my joists. The reason that first one I had to do both sides, it had a little edge damage from some strapping on both sides, so I just ripped a 1/2 inch off each side. And here's the first test of the lift. It works really, really good. You can load it on the side there, you can lock it flat or have it so it tilts. It has little spring-loaded arms there that kind of keep it from sliding off. And I was absolutely thrilled at just how easy this was for me to hold a sheet of wood up to the ceiling by myself. And this is setting up the repetitive process that is going to be doing this ceiling. Once I have the piece of MDF where I want it, I will go ahead and use a laser plumb. And I have the lighting grid laid out on the floor, so I can just transfer it up to the piece, mark it, and I can drill the hole exactly where I want it to go. Now this ceiling was insulated previously. It's inside the shop, so it's not like that's an exterior. It's not like the outside is on top of the ceiling, but I did notice it's a little cooler in here than it was before. I mean, we've got winter on here now, and I thought, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and throw some insulation, new insulation, not mouse poop filled insulation. And just I kind of like to keep the office a little bit warmer than the shop. That way I can keep the shop cooler for when I'm doing work. Don't get so hot, but when I'm just sitting in front of my computer editing or whatever, I'll be a little bit more cozy. And there you can see just how easy this is. Before I screwed each sheet in, I put in my lights just to make sure that I could reach the plug-in cord and stuff like that, but that was pretty much it. Once I had that done, I would pilot drill every single screw and then go back with a 1.5-inch long wood screw. Now I'm going to be putting a grid of trim on this ceiling, and I'll be hiding the joint, so I'm not super worried about it being absolutely perfect, but I do want to keep the screws as close to the edge as possible so that the trim that I put on will cover them up. Look at that. The first piece of ceiling up, and they hardly broke a sweat. It's fantastic. And like I said, this is a repetitive process, so 12 foot is about the width, so I'll do one full sheet, and then I'll have to rip off a little bit to fill up the rest of each row. Now this project is actually moving quite slowly. I was hoping for some reason I could have this done in a week. This ceiling alone took me about 3 weeks because we're just so busy right now with the Christmas rush. And so I just squeeze a little time here and there as I can. And then it doesn't help when you make stupid mistakes. I don't know how many of these I would put up and then realize that I didn't have insulation.
I forgot the insulation. Stupid.
I got better at the end, but it's just frustrating. And there's really not a whole lot more to tell about this process. It's basically just do this, rinse, repeat. It felt so good to put that last piece of paneling up on the ceiling, and the next thing I need to do is wood fill these holes, and then we're going to lay out the grid with some trim, and essentially we're going to do a 4-foot by 4-foot grid, or maybe a 2-foot by 2-foot, but it does need to line up on the 4-foot mark so that we can cover up those long joints in all the directions. But that's going to have to come up in a later video. I want to thank Princess Auto once again for sponsoring this video. Thank you guys for watching it, and I'll give you a little look here. I think this turned out pretty good. And could you imagine doing this without that drywall lift? That would have been ridiculous. So super glad I have that. Now I can tuck it away in the back of the shop for other times I need it, or maybe if my friends need it. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you have a great day. Cheers.